Hello amigos. The last video I made has been a little while ago. It was about how the Tramp, my motorcycle that I built, how I was excited about getting it together, and I was going to run it for a few miles, or actually after a few tanks of gas, and to see how the welds hold up, and so far they hold up good. And this is it again. Took it down all the rough roads I could find, all the bad roads that Mississippi has, because Mississippi probably has some of the worst roads next to Louisiana. So I went down some of the worst roads I can find to make sure that the frame didn't come apart, and because I don't know any other way to do it. You know, my little fab job here seemed to hold up with the new motor mount. No cracks, no breaks. All of this seemed to hold up okay. No cracks or breaks. And also about to start taking it apart soon. And what I'm going to do is I'm making another upgrade to it. This time not to the rolling chassis, but this right here. The motorcycle that this came out of, I picked it up for about $1,000. It's sat outside. They didn't want it anymore. It came out of an 02 Sportster. There's the rest of the motorcycle I took apart. You know, all the pieces, parts in the box, and you know, wheel right there, front end right there. But I bought the bike for the drivetrain. I managed to get them to fire it up. It ran kind of rough, mostly because of the carburetor. The carburetor was gummed up because it sat for so long. But there was no engine noise. There was wasn't smoking, no leaks, no anything. It only has 18,000 miles on it. As to where this motor over here, I love this motor. You know, I built this motor from the ground up, but it'll never be anything more than a 65 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour motorcycle. I have tweaked with the sprockets enough. The best I could do was change the gear ratio inside the transmission. But and the other thing I did was I changed the front sprocket. It went from a 21 tooth to the 22 tooth front transmission sprocket, and has a 48 tooth on the back, which was stock. But anyway, I went to a 47 on the back, and gave me some longer legs. But I could feel the motor working hard. I've come to the conclusion that if I keep it up, I was going to tear the transmission up, because it was just too much. The gear ratio wasn't set up for that. But I did get to wonder, what is it about a 91 to 03 883 motor that can handle the gear ratio of a 5-speed and do 85 miles an hour without too much trouble? What is it? What is the difference between that and this? Well, I figured out from the Ironheads on up to the Evo Sportsters in the 1990, the motor sprocket was a 34 tooth, and the back on the clutch basket was a 59 tooth. But what Harley did is that when in 91, of course this is an 02, but in 91 they went to a 35 tooth sprocket on the front and a 56 tooth sprocket on the back inside the primary drive. So they changed the gear ratio and that to make up for all the other modifications they did in the transmission, so that they can have a 5-speed. So that pretty much told me I'll never be able to do 80, 85 if I need to long term without really doing some serious damage to this engine. The other reason I'm doing this is because I want to be able to ride this motorcycle to New Braunfels, Texas. I want to go to Giddy Up again. I've gone to the 5th annual Giddy Up this past spring, and I've decided that when I come back I want to ride this thing, because I was on my Softail when I was passing through, coming back from California. I was on this thing here. This thing's definitely a Cadillac compared to this, but nevertheless I want to be able to say that I've ridden it to certain places. So I'm looking forward to putting this motor right here in that frame. So when it comes apart, I'm going to strip this back down to the frame. I'm going to be sure to see if this bolts up fairly easy, and make sure I don't have to do any extra fab work. I shouldn't have to. 1986 to 2003, the bolt patterns were the same for the motor mounting. But I'm fixing to find out if that's really true or not. I don't have much to lack as far as parts to make it work. This came with a belt. There's the main shaft right here. It's kind of dark, can't see. I pulled the pulley off. I got to find a chain conversion for this. But until then, we'll see what happens.